Hi there, welcome to Long Distance Review, and on this week's episode I'm going to look at the new album from Touche Amore entitled Lament. Touche Amore are a post-hardcore band and they were formed in 2007 in the USA, and this will be their fifth studio album. For me, I first became exposed and really got into Touche Amore in 2016 when they released their fourth album entitled Stage 4. I heard about the album and the sort of events surrounding the album, and it really piqued my interest. The album itself is not a concept album, that's the wrong way of saying it. Jeremy Bolm, the lead singer, writing about the passing of his mother due to incurable cancer, hence the name Stage 4, which is the highest level of cancer. It was it's a very difficult album to listen to, obviously, but it's very open and honest, and it was fierce and passionate. It was moving and painful at times, and really, really tough to listen to, I found, but it was artistically brilliant, I thought. And it was one of my favourite albums of 2016. It really got me into Touche Amore, so I've been looking forward to this album for a long time. And it's going to be a tough album to follow up, obviously. What Touche Amore have done, first of all, on this album is they've moved away from the producer Brad Wood, who did the last two albums. They've employed the producer Ross Robinson. Now, people will know Ross Robinson. If you're of a certain age, you will remember Ross Robinson as the new metal god producer. He brought Korn to the world and Slipknot, and essentially what Ross Robinson does is he breaks down bands and lays them to bear emotionally on record. He drains every last drip of emotion especially from lyricists, and puts them on paper. I mean, you need to listen to Korn's first album to understand what I mean by that. And I feel like maybe Touche Amore needed that final push, because they are a band who lay themselves emotionally bare anyway, so maybe they just needed that final push from Ross Robinson to just tip them over the edge, let's say. And I felt like they really needed that. This album has all been billed as the light at the end of the tunnel from Stage 4. Stage 4 was an album which I felt never really had a conclusion. It was just a very open and honest portrayal of someone struggling to deal with someone's death and doubting himself as well, and it was very open and honest, but never really had a conclusion of that was the end of that. And I feel like it doesn't offer that, although it has been billed as that. It is more about tackling life after such a grief experience. On with the album anyway. The first track opens up, it's a track called Come Heroin, and it's this punky, raw opener of a number, and it displays the open and honest, tender as well Touche Amore that we've all known and come to love. I've always loved Jeremy Bolm's introspective lyrics, that's him sort of laid bare. He never leaves anything to metaphors. It's never, as he openly says on this album, he's never been too subtle. He hides nothing under anything. I love the line on this track where he says, "I'm just a risk, a colossal near miss," because no matter how positive or optimistic he can bill himself as, or how he attempts to be, he will always come across as very self-deprecating, and that always shines through loudly on his lyrics, let's say. The song following that, the title track, Lament, is probably the first time we really see or get the feel of Ross Robinson's production. There's a lot more of those reverbed guitars that he does, and the rhythm section on this, the drum and bass, are really thunderous, and that works really well. I think that the tracks overall on this album are a lot snappier and crisper than Stage 4, and I guess that's what the aim was from the band completely. You do get to, I think that it works 90% of the time. You get a song like Reminders, which is one of the singles, which nearly dips into pop punk territory, which is an area I don't really like. I don't really want Touche Amore in, but I think that song just about stays out of that and sits on the punk side of things. It reminds me more of a Rancid anthem sort of track than anything else, and it remains credible because of that, let's say. And it's certainly not that this album is a bright and breezy album. It's far from it. It still retains Jeremy Bolm's constant self-deprecation and resigned honesty that he always has. But at times it is peppered and sprinkled with optimism and humour, let's say. It's more of a coming to terms with yourself after the incredible grief you've experienced than anything else, really. My favourite song on this is probably Limelight, which was actually the first single off it, but it works incredibly well on this album. It has these twanging guitars and muted sort of drums at first, which build to this really exhaustive and effective chorus. Sonically, it reminds me a bit of a Skyscraper off Stage 4, not the chorus, but the verse probably, sonically. And it works really well as a centerpiece on the album. And yeah, I really like that track.
While the cavalry moves in for the kill, moves in for the kill, moves in for the kill. I'm tired and I'm sore. I'm not so young anymore. Worn down, but I imagine this uniform stays in fashion.
After that, you get tracks like Savouring, which is also one of the highlights on here. It's probably the hardest and fastest that Touche Amore go instrumentally on this album, but also confessionally from Jeremy. It's him as an open letter to his partner to sort of thank her for sticking with him through the grief and helping him through all this grief. I guess the most departure from the Touche Amore sound we get on here is a song called A Broadcast, which is, it's almost country tinged. It has these steel pedal guitars, sorry, and these woes, and it's almost, it's not really a direction I'd want Touche Amore to go in, but because of how emotionally draining it can be listening to, and it's exhausting listening to the Touche Amore album, so I feel that sonically this is a bit of light relief and it actually works alright on here. I don't want to hear too much of it, but because how much of an emotional barrage and relentless it can be, it serves as a bit of light relief there. I like the songs near the end. There's a song called I'll Be Your Host, which I really enjoy, which is Jeremy openly saying that how reluctant he is as being that person where people come up to you and say, oh, thanks ever so much for Stage 4, it's helped me through such hard times. Not that he's not empathetic, but he just struggles to be that person. I really like the song Deflector. It has this great, lovely sort of at the drive-in feel to that song, another band that Ross Robinson produced, let's say. And it's one of the best tracks on there. I love the bass line on that, underpinning the catchy refrain from Jeremy. And then you get to the last track at the end, where it's a strange track called A Forecast, which is probably the most naked and open that Jeremy's been in terms of the sound of him. It's just him for 2 minutes over this minimalistic piano. It almost feels like he's doing it off the cuff. It's just him narrating to the listener where he's been since Stage 4 and how he's been since Stage 4. And it's difficult to listen to, but completely honest and emotional, but also very funny at times and quite brave. I love the line on that song where he says, I'm not sure what I'm after, but it couldn't go left unsaid. And I think that sums up this album perfectly, really. It's not the optimistic conclusion to Stage 4 that it might have been. It's a continuation of a struggle. And it's him laying to bare what he is. It's him saying, I'm not sure what this is I'm doing or what I'm going to get out of it, but I just need to do it. It's really good. I'm never going to say this album is as good or better than Stage 4, because Stage 4 is something that I hold very dear to my heart, but it is a great Touche Amore record, and I think this year you won't find a much better post-hardcore record than this. Let me know what you think of the album, and I'll be back soon with another review. Thanks very much for watching.